Have you ever noticed something strange? Sometimes silence is louder than words, louder than shouting, louder than explanations, louder than any "I'm fine" someone can text you while clearly not fine. It's funny, right? We spend our whole lives learning to communicate, write, speak, argue, debate, but nobody teaches us how to handle silence. And yet silence hits harder than anything anyone could ever say. Why does it feel that way? Why does silence make your stomach drop? Why does it feel like the entire universe is trying to whisper something you're not sure you're ready to hear? Today, we're breaking down why silence feels louder than words. And trust me, once you understand this, your relationships, your emotions, your self-awareness, they all start making way more sense. Let's start with this. Silence is not empty. Silence is never empty. When a person goes silent, your brain doesn't hear nothing. It hears, something is wrong. Did I mess up? Why aren't they replying? Are they upset? Are they losing interest? Have they been kidnapped by aliens? Okay, maybe that last one is just you at 2 a.m. See, silence creates a vacuum, and human brains hate vacuums. So what does the brain do? It fills the silence with your fears, your insecurities, your overthinking, your worst-case scenarios. Words can clarify, words can explain, words can correct misunderstandings. But silence? Silence lets your imagination run wild. And trust me, your imagination is a dramatic Bollywood director who loves overreacting, loves plot twists, and never checks facts. But here's where it gets even deeper. Silence feels louder because it forces you to hear your own thoughts, thoughts you've been avoiding. Words distract us. Conversations distract us. Noise keeps us comfortable. But silence puts a spotlight on everything inside you. Suddenly, you hear your doubts, your needs, your loneliness, your truth. Most people aren't afraid of someone else's silence. They're afraid of the voice inside their own mind that becomes impossible to ignore when everything else goes quiet. That's why silence with someone you love feels different than silence with strangers. It hits harder because there's more inside you that you've been avoiding. Let's talk about another reason silence feels so loud. Silence is meaning. If someone suddenly stops talking to you, it's not nothing. It's communication without words. Maybe it's distance. Maybe it's disinterest. Maybe it's protecting their peace. Maybe it's waiting for you to understand something they can't say out loud. People rarely go silent without a reason, and the human mind is wired to detect meaning, even when that meaning is unclear. That's why silent tension in a room can feel heavier than shouting. You can ignore words, you can pretend you didn't hear them, you can laugh them off. But silence demands your attention. Silence forces you to feel. Now let's get a little personal. The reason silence hurts so much is because it breaks the illusion of certainty. Words give us structure. Yes, no, I love you, I'm upset, I need space, I'll talk to you soon. But silence is a blank page you're forced to write on alone. You don't know where you stand. You don't know what they're thinking. You don't know what to expect. And uncertainty is the one thing humans absolutely cannot tolerate. So your brain starts screaming louder than any words ever could. Here's the twist most people miss. Silence only feels loud when you care. If a stranger doesn't text back, you don't overthink. If someone you don't like goes silent, it feels like peace. If your crush goes silent for 10 minutes, congratulations, your brain is now hosting the Olympics of overthinking. Silence exposes your attachment. It shows you who matters. It shows you whose opinion you value. It shows you where your emotional wounds are still healing. Silence is a mirror, and sometimes the reflection is difficult to look at. But here's the part nobody tells you. Silence is not always a punishment. Sometimes silence is protection, your protection. Sometimes silence is the moment the world gives you to finally hear your own needs, to break a toxic pattern, to rethink a relationship, to understand your worth. Words can manipulate, words can distract, words can sugarcoat what you're not ready to face. But silence tells the truth without saying anything. So why does silence feel louder than words? Because silence is where feelings live. Because silence reveals what noise tries to hide. Because silence forces you to confront yourself. Because silence turns uncertainty into emotional thunder. Because silence is communication, just not the kind you're used to. Silence is powerful, uncomfortable, heavy, honest, and sometimes silence is the only thing loud enough